My true story from Los Angeles. My daughter and her husband promised me a spa getaway after my husband died, then left me in a psychiatric ward to steal the inheritance. She said it was a spa retreat until I saw the padded walls. Mom, if you cannot take care of yourself, then let someone else do it. Stop pretending you are grieving. Dad has been gone for 2 months already. Those were the first words Amanda, my daughter-in-law, said to me that morning. No good morning, no hug, no gentle kindness, just that. Just those cold, stinging words like ice water on already bruised skin. She stood in the kitchen, wearing her sleek black pantsuit, hair pulled back so tight it looked like it hurt, tapping on her phone like I was nothing more than another notification she needed to swipe away. And if you go on TV crying about how we treated you, she added without looking up, I swear I will tell everyone you were in a mental hospital. Let's see who believes your version then. I stood there holding the tea towel in my wrinkled hands, unsure whether to cry or laugh. I did neither. I simply turned away and folded the towel again, twice, then once more. My fingers needed something to do. Something other than reach out for the daughter I no longer recognized. I am 74 years old. I was married for 51 of those years. My husband, Charles, passed away in our home, in our bed, just 72 days ago. I counted every single one since he took his last breath. I still woke up sometimes expecting to hear the creak of his footsteps, the way he always cleared his throat before speaking, like he was about to say something profoundly important, even if it was just to ask if we still had orange juice. After his death, I stopped sleeping. Nights became long tunnels of silence, broken only by the distant hum of traffic and the ache of memories. My hands would reach out in the dark and find only empty sheets. The house we built together, where every room held some echo of him, became unbearable. Amanda and Evan, my daughter and son-in-law, offered to take me in. You should not be alone right now, Amanda said the day of the funeral. She wore sunglasses inside the house and dabbed at eyes that had not shed a tear. Come stay with us for a while. Let us take care of you. At first, I thought it was love. Grief does that. It makes you want to believe in people again. I moved into their Los Angeles home, a sleek modern place with no pictures on the walls and no warmth in the corners. I had my own room, yes, but it felt borrowed, temporary, like a hotel that forgot to clean properly. The first few days Amanda was attentive. She brought me herbal tea, asked if I had eaten, suggested yoga videos. Then things shifted. Subtle at first. She began sighing loudly when I spoke too slowly. She corrected my sentences. She told Evan, within earshot, that I was getting worse. I tried to stay out of their way. I folded laundry that was not mine, reorganized the pantry, dusted the windowsills. I did not complain when my bathroom toiletries were replaced with generic brands or when my crossword puzzles disappeared. Then, one evening, Amanda brought up the idea of a retreat. It is in Beverly Hills, she said, sitting across from me with a cup of coffee she never offered to share. A really high-end wellness spa. You deserve it, Mom. After everything. It is time you focus on healing, mentally and emotionally. I blinked at her. A spa? Yes, like a retreat, just for a few days. You will be pampered, have people check in on you, you can journal, meditate, whatever, reset. I hesitated. It is all covered, she added quickly. Dad had that old insurance policy, remember? I found a clause, mental wellness post-grief. I nodded. I wanted to believe. I wanted, more than anything, to trust my daughter. If she was trying to help me start again, then I had to meet her halfway. That Saturday, Evan drove. Amanda sat beside him, sunglasses on again. I sat in the back seat, holding my handbag and wearing a cardigan Charles bought me 10 Christmases ago. I stared out the window, watching the city blur past, billboards, palm trees, lives I would never know. It took nearly an hour. When we arrived, the building looked sterile, tall and gray like a medical center. But Amanda smiled and said, "It is a wellness complex. Looks are deceiving. High-end stuff, Mom." We parked. As I reached for my purse, Evan gently pulled it away. "They do not allow personal items inside," he said. "No phones, no bags. It is all part of the program. Digital detox." Amanda nodded. "You will get a robe, slippers, everything you need." They kissed my cheek. "Someone will come for you," Amanda said. "We already signed everything. Just go in, relax." I stepped through the sliding glass doors. And that is when I saw it. The first thing was the receptionist. She wore scrubs, not spa robes. Behind her was a hallway of doors with no handles, just numbers and magnetic locks. A man in white approached. "Mrs. Harper?" he asked, already reaching for my arm. "We have your intake forms. Please come with me." I looked back through the glass. Evan was already reversing the car. Amanda waved once from the window. I did not wave back, because at that moment I saw the padded walls, the soft flooring, the security camera watching from the ceiling. This was not a spa. This was a psychiatric facility, and I was already inside. The door clicked shut behind me with a finality that made my stomach twist. There was no soft music playing, no eucalyptus-scented air, no relaxing lobby chairs. The lighting was cold, clinical. The walls were painted in institutional beige and the floor tiles squeaked beneath my shoes. The receptionist didn't offer cucumber water or a robe. She handed me a clipboard with several forms and a plastic wristband. I looked around. Every door had a keypad. No one smiled. A man in white scrubs appeared beside me again. "Mrs. Harper," he said in a voice as flat as his expression, "please come with me. We're taking you to your room." "My room?" I asked, still trying to make sense of the hallway. He didn't answer. As he led me through the corridor, I passed a woman pacing in a small glass enclosure. Her eyes were vacant. Another man sat in a chair, rocking slowly, whispering to himself. The scent of disinfectant burned my nose. "What is this place?" I asked. He finally looked at me. "You're here for rest and supervision. Your daughter explained the situation." I stopped walking. I thought this was a spa, a grief retreat. He didn't blink. "You've been admitted for psychological evaluation." That word, admitted, hit me like a slap. "No," I said, "there must be a mistake. I didn't agree to this." "I was told you signed the intake forms," he interrupted. "Or rather, your family did on your behalf, through the wellness proxy." I felt my knees weaken. "I need to speak to my daughter. I need to call someone." He motioned toward a small white door. "We'll get you settled in first." The room had no windows, padded walls, a single bed bolted to the floor. No nightstand, no clock, just a narrow shelf with a cup of water and a packet of tissues. They gave me socks but no shoes. I sat on the bed, trembling. I was not sick. I was grieving, yes, but not broken. Not crazy, not dangerous. I waited for Amanda to call. She didn't. That night, a nurse brought me 2 pills in a paper cup. "I'm not taking anything," I said. "It's part of your prescribed regimen." "I don't need medication." She didn't argue. She just stood there, waiting, watching. Behind her, a small security camera blinked from the ceiling corner. I said no. She left. 10 minutes later, 2 orderlies entered. One stood near the door. The other approached slowly, hands visible, calm voice. "Mrs. Harper, we can do this the easy way." That night, I swallowed the pills. The next morning, I woke up groggy, unsure how much time had passed. My head throbbed. My hands felt disconnected from my body. I asked the nurse what I had taken. She said, "Just a mild stabilizer for your safety." I asked to call my niece, Angela. She shook her head. "Per your family's request, communication is limited until your evaluation is complete. I want to speak to my lawyer. No outside contact allowed during the observation period." I felt my breath quicken. My chest tightened. "You can't keep me here," I said. The nurse simply smiled. "You're here voluntarily. You signed in." But I hadn't. Amanda and Evan had. And now I was trapped. Days passed. I couldn't tell how many. There were no clocks, no windows, no sunlight. Just routine, meds, meals, blood pressure checks, group sessions I wasn't allowed to skip. A man cried in his room every night. A woman screamed every morning. I memorized the creak in the hallway floorboards when the nurse rolled her cart. I tried to stay awake, to keep my mind clear, but the drugs blurred my thoughts. I'd start a sentence and forget how it ended. I'd close my eyes for a moment and wake up hours later with no memory of sleep. I asked for a Bible. They gave me a coloring book. Every time I protested, they wrote in their little notebooks. Patient resistant to treatment. Displays signs of paranoia. claims facility is a trap. I began to realize the more I insisted I was sane, the more insane I appeared. I knew something was deeply wrong. This was no wellness retreat. This was a prison, with soft walls and polite captors, and Amanda had put me here. While I sat behind padded walls, they moved quickly. Amanda and Evan wasted no time once I was out of the way. Within days of my admission, they met with their so-called family attorney, a man I had only seen once before, briefly, at a neighborhood barbecue. Amanda had always insisted he was trustworthy, but now I realized he was just someone pliable, someone who would not ask too many questions if the checks cleared and the clients smiled wide enough. They forged my signature on documents I had never seen. They invoked a power of attorney I had never granted. They changed the name on the house deed to Amanda's. They emptied my savings account, sold Charles's life insurance bonds, and cashed in the stock portfolio we had quietly built over 4 decades. They did it fast, quietly, efficiently. A small article appeared in a local newsletter. Retired community volunteer withdraws from public life due to health concerns. The photograph was from 10 years ago. The quote was fabricated. "I need rest," the article claimed I had said. "I trust my daughter to handle everything." The betrayal was so bold, so cruel, it almost became elegant. But even in the fog of sedatives and the glare of surveillance, I held on to a single thread of clarity: hope. Charles had been a quiet man, loyal, soft-spoken. Most knew him as a retired engineer who spent his weekends building birdhouses. What they did not know, not even Amanda, was that Charles had spent the first 12 years of his life in government intelligence. Nothing glamorous, nothing cinematic, just low-level information security. But habits learned in those years never left him. He double-checked every lock. He created backup plans for everything: retirement, power outages, even his own funeral. And he never, ever gave a gift without a reason. The week before he died, he handed me a small velvet box. "Just something simple," he had whispered. "A pendant, for when I am gone." I had worn it every day since. Now, curled on the bed in that sterile room, I lifted the pendant and held it in my hand. It was heavier than it looked, silver with a tiny engraved dove. But when I pressed the back, I felt it, a tiny indentation, almost imperceptible. I clicked it. Nothing happened. At least, not in the room, no lights, no sounds. But I knew my Charles. It was not just a pendant, it was a GPS tracker, a voice recorder, a lifeline. I pressed the center 3 times, just like he taught me long ago when we played with one of his old demo models. A soft vibration pulsed through the chain. That meant it was live. Somewhere outside these walls, a signal had been sent, and if anyone was going to follow it, it would be Angela. Angela, my late sister's granddaughter. A tough, determined young woman who wore a badge and a braid and never backed down from anything. I had told her once, in a whisper and a hug, "If anything ever happens to me, follow the pendant." Now, I could only hope she remembered, because I could not scream in here, I could not fight my way out, but I could wait. And now, someone out there might finally be listening. I clutched the pendant beneath my shirt and closed my eyes. My husband's voice echoed in my mind, calm and steady as it always was. "If you ever disappear," Charles had said, just days before he passed, "that necklace will speak for you." I had smiled then, half amused, half touched. "Disappear? What do you think I am, Charles, a spy?" He only gave me that little grin of his, the one he wore when he knew something before I did. But now, sealed inside a place that treated grief like delusion and fear like a symptom, I was counting on his words being true. Angela was the only person I trusted enough to know. She was my sister's granddaughter, and while the bloodline between us wasn't direct, the bond had always been fierce. She was a police officer now, sharp and bold, with a moral compass strong enough to rattle walls. I had raised her like one of my own, especially after her mother passed. And before Charles died, I told her plainly, "If I ever go missing, or if anyone tells you something that doesn't sound like me, track the necklace. It has a locator. Charles built it. You'll know what to do." Angela hadn't laughed. She'd just nodded and said, "I will, Grandma. I promise." And now I was praying she meant it. Across town, in a modest apartment in Glendale, Angela was brushing her hair when her phone buzzed. The alert came from a program she never deleted, even though it had never gone off before. Harper_GPS_signal_activated. She dropped the brush. Within minutes, she had her badge, her laptop, and the tracking tablet Charles had mailed to her years ago. The signal pulsed from the edge of Beverly Hills, near a building registered under a private mental health facility. Angela's heart raced. She hadn't heard from me in 2 weeks. Amanda told her I had gone on a spiritual cleanse retreat and was unplugged. That had seemed off. Now it felt sinister. She didn't call the facility. She didn't show up in uniform. She went undercover. Angela borrowed a white coat from a friend at the precinct's evidence locker, tied her hair up, and walked into the facility's front entrance the next morning with a clipboard in hand and confidence on her face. "I'm with patient intake auditing," she told the front desk nurse. "Department of Mental Health cross-check." The nurse looked her up and down, uncertain. "Name?" Angela asked, before the nurse could challenge her. Whitley." Angela scribbled something. "Pull up the long-term inpatient list. I need to verify GPS clearance for one of the units." The nurse blinked. "GPS?" "Routine scan," Angela replied. "Some patients come in with digital bracelets or medical tags. It's a privacy issue. Just names." Reluctantly, the nurse handed over a list. Angela scanned it, finding what she needed. Eleanor Harper, room 313. Long-term evaluation. Family holds proxy. Angela's stomach turned. That was all she needed. She made her way down the hall, counting doors. When she reached room 313, she paused. The door had no window, just a small rectangular slot near the bottom for food trays. Angela crouched, pressed her eye to the opening, and saw me. I was sitting on the floor, knees drawn up to my chest, holding the pendant in my hand like a lifeline. My hair was disheveled, my eyes sunken, but I was awake, alert, breathing. Angela tapped lightly. I looked up, and I saw her. Through the gap, I saw her familiar eyes, those same determined eyebrows, the jawline that reminded me of her mother. Tears welled instantly. I pressed my fingers to the slot. She did the same. We didn't speak. We couldn't. But in that moment, we didn't need words. She saw me. I was not alone. Angela stood up, her jaw tight now. She walked calmly back to the elevator and out the building. Her heart was pounding, but her mind was razor sharp. She had seen enough. Grandma hadn't gone to a retreat. She had been locked away. And someone, somewhere, was about to be held accountable. The walls in that place weren't just padded, they were thin. Thin enough that if you pressed your ear to the right corner, waited until the hallway was quiet, and held your breath, you could hear things you were never meant to hear. And I heard plenty. While I waited for Angela to come back with whatever power or paper she needed to break me out, I played my own part. I kept my voice soft and uncertain. I asked what day it was, even when I knew. I shuffled when I could have walked straight. I let them believe I was harmless, confused, forgotten. What they did not know was that the pendant Charles gave me was still doing its work. With one tap it recorded. With 2 taps it uploaded. I hid it beneath my collar and kept it running every time a nurse stepped inside, every time a doctor mumbled notes outside my door, every time the clipboard flipped and the voices lowered. I caught one nurse, young, distracted, unaware, talking to another near the medication cart. "She's the one with the fancy daughter, right?" the younger nurse said. "Yeah," the other replied. "They want her held as long as possible, said she's unpredictable, dangerous if released." "Seriously?" I heard the daughter say something about inheritance. "Let the doctors do their thing. I'll take care of the rest." I recorded every word. Then, 2 days later, Amanda and Evan returned. I knew they were coming before I saw them, because the staff suddenly stood straighter, like the room had gained a new gravity. Someone brought me a fresh set of socks and fluffed my pillow. The nurse who usually called me Miss Confused called me Mrs. Harper. I sat quietly in the corner of my room and waited. Amanda entered first, her perfume hitting the air like an intruder. Evan followed, looking bored, checking his phone. She crouched beside me like she was comforting a frightened animal. "Hi, Mom," she cooed. "We're just here to take care of a little more paperwork." I blinked at her slowly, just as I had practiced. Evan stepped forward. "Just a formality. You'll be well soon. Everyone says you're improving." Amanda turned to the nurse behind her. "We're requesting to extend her voluntary evaluation. Another 30 days at least. She's not ready. Still very disoriented." "She forgot her own birthday yesterday," Evan added. I smiled inside. Because yesterday I had told 3 different nurses the exact date and year I was born, just to prove I could. The nurse nodded and handed over the clipboard. Amanda signed with a flourish, then leaned toward the doorway to speak privately with her husband, not knowing that my little necklace was picking up everything. "I swear to God," she whispered, "she just won't die. We can't move forward with the house until she's out of the picture. Every extra day costs us money." Evan murmured something I couldn't hear, but Amanda snapped back clearly. "She's in here meditating or whatever while our buyers are waiting. Every day she's alive delays the sale. The market won't wait forever." My stomach turned, but I stayed silent. Let them keep talking. Let them bury themselves. Once they were gone, I tapped the pendant again. Recording saved. Evidence secured. Amanda didn't know it yet, but her greed had just signed her own confession. The next time she came back, it wouldn't be to extend my stay. It would be to explain herself to the law. Angela did not waste time. Once she saw me through that narrow food slot, sitting on the cold floor of room 313, she made exactly 1 phone call, from her car. Within 48 hours, she had what she needed. A legal order for inspection, signed by a sympathetic judge she had worked with on elder abuse cases. She brought with her 2 things that mattered more than titles or uniforms: evidence and witnesses. Angela arrived at the facility in full uniform this time, flanked by a civil rights attorney from Elder Justice, California, and a young local reporter who had already covered 2 wrongful institutionalization cases in the county. They did not ask permission to enter. They walked through the front doors with the court order held high, and when the receptionist stammered something about protocol, Angela calmly placed the document on the desk and said, "Then call your administrator, because in 10 minutes we'll be inside, with or without him." The administrator arrived in 7. He was sweating before he opened his mouth. Angela walked past him, her boots clicking with purpose. "Room 313, she said. The moment the door opened, I blinked in the light. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. For a split second, I thought it was another checkup. Another stranger with a clipboard, another day of playing the fool to survive. But then I saw her, Angela, standing tall in her navy blue, the badge shining over her heart, her jaw clenched tight. Behind her, a woman with a leather briefcase and a young man with a camera. "You're safe now, Grandma," she said. I did not cry. Not then. I just reached for her hand and stood. No stumbling. No confusion. Just clarity. The nurse at the door stuttered something about medical clearance. The administrator tried to intervene. Angela held up the document. "She is being removed under emergency injunction as a wrongfully confined citizen. You can call the judge if you'd like. He's expecting you." The attorney stepped forward. "Also, your facility is now under legal review. You may want to preserve your internal communication logs, especially anything relating to Eleanor Harper and her daughter Amanda Westwood." That was the first time I had heard Amanda's full married name in this building. It sounded so official, so public. By the time we reached the parking lot, the reporter was already speaking into his recorder. "A 74-year-old widow has been removed from a Beverly Hills mental health facility after evidence surfaced that she was wrongfully confined by her daughter and son-in-law for financial gain. Sources say she was held without her consent for over 3 weeks following her husband's death. We drove to a safe location that night, Angela's apartment. She made me tea and held my hand while I sat in her living room in a pair of her sweatpants and an oversized hoodie. She looked at me. "Do you have anything to prove what they were doing?" I reached into the side pocket of the hoodie, pulled out the pendant, and pressed the hidden button 3 times. The small blinking light told us what we needed. "Let's download it," she said. The files played through her laptop speakers. Every word Amanda had said, every sigh, every lie, every $sign in her voice. The moment she whispered about the house and our buyers and "she just won't die," the attorney sent the files to her legal team. By morning, they had been filed with the court. Within 24 hours, Amanda and Evan were served with subpoenas. Their accounts were frozen. Their real estate sale was canceled mid-contract. The media ran the story hard. Elderly widow trapped in psychiatric ward by daughter seeking inheritance. Daughter's greed exposed in secret recording. Mother's necklace was the key. The pendant that caught a crime. Talk shows picked it up. Twitter exploded. Advocacy groups called me a survivor of silent cruelty. Women my age wrote in by the hundreds, sharing their own stories, thanking me for speaking when they had not. Amanda tried to defend herself at first. She was confused, she said in a shaky video statement. We were trying to help. Mom needed structure. She wasn't coping well. The reporter played a clip of her laughing about my death. The statement disappeared within hours. The judge ordered an emergency freeze on all my assets, pending full review. Every document signed on my behalf was declared under scrutiny. Amanda was placed under temporary detainment for questioning. Evan, who worked at a mid-level financial firm, was let go the next day. His employer cited ethical concerns. I didn't rejoice. Not in a cruel way, but I did feel something shift in me. Something old, heavy, and tired lift just a little. I had been believed. And now, finally, they would be held accountable. I stayed at Angela's for the next few weeks. I drank hot cocoa on her couch. I called old friends who thought I had gone off the grid. I read every article they sent me, some accurate, some dramatic, all echoing the same truth. I had survived what others didn't. Because of a necklace. Because of a granddaughter. Because I remembered who I was, even when no one else did. Amanda and Evan's world unraveled in slow motion, but publicly, permanently, and justly. And I finally slept. The phone rang just after dinner. I had been sitting in Angela's living room, wrapped in a soft fleece blanket, watching an old black and white movie with a cup of chamomile tea in my hand. I wasn't expecting any calls. Few people had this number, only those I trusted. Angela glanced at the screen and then handed it to me silently. It's her, she said. Amanda? I stared at the name glowing on the screen. For a moment my hand hesitated, suspended between forgiveness and fury. I answered. Her voice was breathless, broken, yet strangely familiar. Mom, please, she whispered. Please don't let this go any further. The media, the lawyers, Evan's been fired. We're ruined. I said nothing. She sniffled loudly, like she was back in grade school after getting caught cheating on a test. You made your point, okay? You've embarrassed us enough. We just didn't know what else to do. You were so out of it after Dad died. You wouldn't eat. You weren't sleeping. We were scared. You thought locking me away would be easier than helping me heal, I said flatly. She went quiet. Then, in a sharper tone, you're destroying everything we built. No, I said. You're reaping what you tried to steal. Mom, for God's sake, she said, her voice rising. The reporters won't stop. People at the office are calling me a monster. Do you want to see your daughter humiliated like this? Do you want your own grandchildren to think their mother is evil? I let her words sit in the air for a moment. Then I answered, calm and even. You chose money over blood. Mama, please, she sobbed. You're my mother. This is going to follow me forever. Yes, I said, it will, and I hung up. That night, I watched the evening news. They aired the full segment. The anchor leaned forward, serious and careful in his tone. Tonight, we bring you the full recording at the center of the Harper investigation, a case that has sparked national conversations about elder abuse, guardianship law, and financial exploitation within families. Then came the footage, Amanda's voice, crystal clear, played over shots of our old home, now empty and silent. She's a burden, Amanda said. We can't keep waiting for her to grieve. It's been weeks, Evan's voice joined in. The papers are in, the attorneys lined up. All we need is for her to stay out of the way. Then came the line, the one that stopped America in its tracks. Just get her out of the house, Amanda said, laughing. Once she's gone, we're golden. This whole thing clears up. The anchor turned back to the camera. That, he said, was a daughter talking about her own mother. The footage played on every major network. Talk shows debated it. Viewers across the country lit up comment sections. Elder advocates demanded new legislation. One anchor called it the coldest act of betrayal we've ever aired. I received dozens of letters, some from strangers, some from other women my age, some from nurses who said they'd seen this before but could never prove it. And one, from a man I'd never met, simply read, Thank you for reminding the world that the elderly are not disposable. Amanda tried to issue a second statement. It backfired. She blamed grief, misunderstanding. It was out of context, she claimed. But the context was clear, and I no longer had to defend myself. The truth had spoken. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't demand jail time or beg for restitution. I simply shared what happened, and in the end, that was more powerful than any punishment I could have conjured. Amanda and Evan moved out of Los Angeles within a month. No one knows where they went. The house they tried to steal now belongs to the Harper Foundation for Elder Justice, funded by what's left of my estate and public donations. I walk freely now. I speak freely. I sleep peacefully, because I know this: the worst betrayal is silence, and I am silent no more. I now live in a warm apartment above a quiet street in Pasadena. The sun reaches my kitchen table every morning around 7:45, just in time for my second cup of tea. Birds land on the sill sometimes. I leave crumbs for them. There is no locked pantry, no camera, no hushed voices behind doors. Angela lives here too, of course. She set up the spare room for me after the investigation ended, painted it soft blue, put Charles's old books on the shelf, and placed a photo of the two of us on the nightstand. Our wedding day, 1969. I look younger in that photo, but not stronger. I'm stronger now. Angela is more than family. She is, in every way that matters, my daughter. She speaks truth like it's a birthright. She protected me when my own blood turned cold. We laugh now, real, honest laughter. Sometimes we cry. She calls me Grandma. I call her mine. After the dust settled, I was asked to speak at a local elder advocacy event. They gave me a microphone and a spotlight, and for the first time, I told my story to a room full of people who understood. Some had scars like mine. Some had wounds still healing. Some hadn't yet found their voices. So I used mine. That night, a woman in her 60s hugged me and whispered, "You made me feel brave again." From that moment on, I knew I had work to do. I became a spokesperson for Elder Truth California, a nonprofit dedicated to exposing and preventing elder abuse, especially inside families where shame and silence keep the truth hidden. We held forums, training sessions, and community outreach programs. I sat in living rooms with grandmothers and widows who whispered, "I thought I was the only one." I told them, "You are not." But that wasn't enough. With the settlement money I won from the civil suit against Amanda and Evan, money I did not want but would not return, I founded the Silent Voice Trust, a fund to provide legal aid, emergency housing, and surveillance technology to older adults being threatened, manipulated, or isolated by their own children or caregivers. We started with 6 clients, then 60, now we're national. I do not run the trust day to day. Younger minds and faster fingers handle that. But I guide it, I show up, I write letters, I sit on the porch with our clients and remind them that they are still allowed to be heard. We filmed a video last spring. It was quiet. Just a chair, a lamp, and me. I wore a soft cardigan and the pendant Charles gave me, still working, still trusted. I looked into the lens and said, "They told me I was just the maid, just the old woman in the back room, just the one they fed pills and locked away. But I built the house they lived in, I paid the bills, I raised the babies, I kept the secrets. And when the time came, I remembered everything. I did not scream, I did not throw fists. I waited, I listened, I planned. And then I took it all back with silence." The screen faded to black, then to white text. Silence is not surrender. Silence is a strategy. The Silent Voice Trust, because justice doesn't need to be loud. The video went viral. Again. Letters poured in. Donations followed. We partnered with clinics, shelters, even universities. I still live simply. I have everything I need: a place to rest, a chair by the window, a granddaughter who brings me flowers and listens to old jazz records with me on Sundays, and the knowledge that somewhere, right now, another woman is holding a pendant or recording a conversation because she watched me and learned she could. This is not revenge. This is reclamation. This is what it looks like when an old woman refuses to disappear. Because I was never weak. I was waiting. Thank you for listening to my story. If it reminded you of someone you love, or someone you used to be, know this: silence is not weakness. It is a waiting place, a shelter where pain turns into patience and memory sharpens like a blade. Some of us were taught to stay quiet, to be good, to endure, and we did, for years. But endurance is not the absence of power, it is power refined. I was betrayed, not by strangers, but by the very people I once rocked to sleep. People I fed, protected, prayed for. That's the cruelest kind of betrayal, the one that wears your last name. But even then, I did not let it hollow me. I let it teach me. The truth didn't save me because I shouted it. It saved me because I remembered it. And now, I speak not for pity, but for power. I don't tell these stories to relive the past. I tell them so others won't have to. There are women out there right now sitting at kitchen tables, wondering if it's their fault. Wondering if maybe they're too sensitive, too forgetful, too much of a burden. If that's you or someone you know, hear me. You are not crazy. You are not useless, and you are not alone. This channel, Grandma True Stories, is for you. For every quiet mother, every forgotten widow, every overlooked woman whose story was buried beneath someone else's convenience. Here, we don't scream to be seen. We remember. We speak, and when we do, the world listens. Because our stories are not fiction. They are the bricks and beams of real lives, the ones no one thought we'd still have the strength to tell. So if this story touched you, challenged you, or made you feel understood, subscribe, stay, share. Let's build a place where silence isn't shameful and survival isn't secret. Click that subscribe button. Because revenge has no expiration date, and wisdom never retires.